Good morning, families and friends. It's time for another chance to read a little bit of God's Word together. It's time to study what the Apostle John has written so that we can know and understand that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing in Him, we can have life in His name. Today, I want to try and give you an analogy. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll try. Imagine that you're going to a Braves baseball game. We can't go to those right now. They're postponed for a little while, but someday soon, we'll go to a Braves baseball game. And you're sitting down there and it is an exciting part of the baseball game. And here comes the guy selling peanuts or ice creams or sodas or whatever it is that you might buy at a baseball game. And you're trying to have a nice conversation, and you're talking about the game, you're enjoying the game, and then there's a really exciting moment in the game. And right during that very exciting moment in the game, the guy steps in front of you and says, "Coca-Cola, $300. Hey man, get out of the way. The guy was stealing second base. I missed it. Come on, man." And what? $300? That's crazy. You can't charge that much for a Coke. If that happened, you'd be right in being a little bit upset. First of all, that guy distracted you from something really, really important that you needed and wanted to watch in that baseball game. And second of all, that price is outrageous. Now, some people think the prices of food and drinks at baseball stadiums and football stadiums are outrageous as it is. But $300 for a Coke, yikes, that would be crazy. Well, that analogy of things distracting from what you're really there for and things being way more expensive than they should be, making the experience a lot less fun, is actually something that Jesus was dealing with in the account from John chapter 2. Let's read it and see how it compares. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at the tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both the sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, that's a strange thing. But if we have these ideas in our heads that there were some distractions from the important thing, and that the prices were way too high, and that made it a bad experience, then I think we can get a little bit closer to understanding why Jesus had to be so obvious in this situation and why he had to deal with this. Jesus was going to celebrate the Passover. If you're a Sola Fide kid, you learned about the Passover this year, probably back in October or something like that, when you learned about how God delivered his people from slavery in Egypt. And he did that with the blood of a lamb painted on the doorposts, and this meal eaten in haste so that as soon as they were done eating, they could pack their things and go and be free. God had brought freedom and restoration for his people when he brought those plagues on Egypt and saved his chosen ones. How wonderful. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful thing that every year people would go to the temple and remember this. And they would make sacrifices of thanks to God, and they would make sacrifices to acknowledge that their sin needed to be paid for, and they would get a chance to interact with their God and be in his presence. But what had happened over the years was people realized, much like a baseball game, these people have traveled a long way. They'll be hungry. They'll be thirsty. Maybe they don't want to travel with their animals that they're planning to offer as a sacrifice. Maybe they don't have the right kind of money to give an offering at the temple. Maybe they need to change their money to the kind of money that the temple needs. And that had set up situations where there were animals making noises and smells all around the temple, and there were people yelling and shouting and bartering about the cost of things. And so that made understanding this gracious, gracious, wonderful gift of God difficult. It was a distraction from God's great grace and mercy. And then on top of that, it seems that historical records suggest that the prices that they were charging were way too high. They were taking advantage of those people traveling a long way. And so that meant that instead of people going to the temple to experience God's free grace and mercy and love, it was just like going to some business where you end up walking away feeling like you got a little bit cheated and things were too expensive. Jesus was consumed with zeal. He had to protect this. The message of grace is way, way, way too important for it to get clouded by distractions. The love that God has for you is way, way, way more important than being worried about a number or about a distraction going on. And so Jesus was purifying the temple in this moment. And his disciples realized this and recognized this. They quoted this psalm that said, "Zeal for the Lord's house will consume me." They realized that this Messiah, the one who would suffer and die, would be the one who would restore things, who would fix things that were broken, and who would point people back to God's grace. And not only that, but he himself would be the source of God's grace. What a beautiful and marvelous thing. I hope that you hold that near to you today. Today, we're going to think and sing about Jesus, that priceless treasure, the one who's worth more than any money could ever buy. Sing with me. I hope you're getting to learn some of the words for this song. Jesus, priceless treasure, fount of purest pleasure, truest friend to me. How long in anguish shall my spirit languish, yearning, Lord, for thee. Thou art mine, O Lamb divine. I will suffer not to hide thee, naught I ask beside thee, naught I ask beside thee. Hence all earthly treasure, Jesus is my pleasure, Jesus is my choice, hence all empty glory. Not to me thy story, told with tempting voice, pain or loss or shame or cross, shall not from my Savior move me, since he deigns to love me, since he deigns to love me. Looks like today's going to be somewhat of a rainy day. It's a little bit tough to be happy sometimes on rainy days. And sometimes the power goes out and the internet shuts off. So you might be up against some frustrations today. Fear not. This is still God's day. He's made it for you. He's got a plan for you. He cares for you. And he loves you. We'll see you again tomorrow.